It is now my privilege to invite our esteemed guests to join me on the dais. We would like to acknowledge each dignitary with a floral welcome. Dr. Rebecca Tavares, Country Representative, UN Women Multi-Country Office for India, Bhutan, Maldives, and Sri Lanka. Mrs. Deena Mehta, Managing Director, Asit C. Mehta Investment Intermediates Limited. Mr. Arun Kumar Jain, Managing Director, Floor Daniel India Private Limited. And Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Bombay Stock Exchange. In celebration of the 20th anniversary of the World Conference on Women in Beijing and International Women's Day, stock exchanges from around the world are joining UN Women, UN Global Compact, and the Sustainable Stock Exchanges Initiative in supporting gender equality and highlighting the pivotal role of the private sector in empowering women in the workplace, marketplace, and community. To culminate the events around the world, BSE, in partnership with UN Women, is hosting this special opening bell ceremony today on March 9th, in conjunction with the commencement of the 59th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. Today's event aims to raise awareness about the importance of gender equality to business and to recognize how the Women's Empowerment Principles, a joint initiative of UN Women and UN Global Compact, can support action on advancing gender equality. Investing in women and girls and enabling their full economic participation is important for business and society to build strong economies and more stable and just societies, improve the equality of life for families and communities, and to achieve sustainable development. We're very proud to be participating in this opening bell ceremony, and I request all our dignitaries to please proceed towards the gong to ring the opening bell. Today, Floor Daniel India Private Limited will be signing the Women's Empowerment Principles, and this is a call for other businesses in India to also adopt the Women's Empowerment Principles. I request everyone to join me in the countdown as we get to 10 seconds before 9:15. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are very proud to be participating in this global movement toward gender equality with today's special opening bell. This symbolic opening bell marks our shared commitment to gender equality and a desire to see more women leaders in businesses globally. It is now my privilege to introduce Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan. Mr. Chauhan currently works as the MD and CEO of the BSE, the first stock exchange of India. The BSE is ranked as the largest exchange in the world in terms of the number of stocks listed. Mr. Chauhan was conferred the prestigious Distinguished Alumnus Award for the year 2014 by his alma mater, the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. In 2014, he also received the honor of Best CEO in Financial Markets in the Asia-Pacific region by the Asian Banker. He has been ranked amongst the 60 most influential Gujaratis in the world for the last 2 consecutive years by Chitralekha, the largest selling Gujarati magazine. He was also ranked among the top 50 chief information officers by several magazines and institutions between 2005 and 2009, including CIO Magazine in the US and Information Week, US. Mr. Chauhan is best known as the father of modern financial derivatives in India. He was part of a small team of 5 people selected from IDBI to set up the National Stock Exchange, and at NSE he set up the first commercial satellite network, the initial technology platform, the Nifty Index, and NSE's certification in financial markets. At BSE, he is credited for implementing the fastest trading system in India with 200 microseconds response time. In addition, he's also been responsible for the revamping of the BSE, bringing equity, currency, and interest rate derivatives to the exchange, and introducing mobile trading systems in India. Given his diverse professional accomplishments, Mr. Chauhan is considered one of the foremost experts in financial market policies, microstructure, information technology, organized retail, telecommunications, Indian social issues, and cricket. He was CEO of a cricket team in its formative years, the Mumbai Indians, in addition to his role as the president and CIO of Reliance Group. He currently serves on the board of ICCL, CDSL, BSE Institute Limited, and Marketplace Technologies Limited. He is also a member of the Board of Governors of the Indian Institute of Information Technology, Design and Manufacturing at Jabalpur, and serves as the chairman of the Advisory Committee on Technology of the Forward Markets Commission. He is a member of several SEBI committees, including Primary Market Advisory Committee and Secondary Market Advisory Committee, Technical Advisory Committee on Money, and the Foreign Exchange and Government Securities Markets of RBI, and has also served on various other government and regulatory committees, including CBDT and FMC, among others in the past. He's also a member of the UK-India Financial Partnership constituted by the Ministry of Finance, Government of India. He is a member of the National Executive Committee and the Capital Markets Committee of FICCI, as well as FICCI's Inclusive Governance Council, National Committee on Capital Markets, and National Council on Financial Sector Development of CII. He also serves on the Managing Committee of Indian Merchants Chamber. He has been quoted and published in various magazines, newspapers, and other media worldwide over the last 2 decades. Mr. Chauhan holds a BTech in Mechanical Engineering from IIT Bombay and a PGDM from IIM Calcutta. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the very accomplished, very distinguished Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan.
Many thanks, Dinaben, Rebecca, Arun Jain, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It's an auspicious occasion. And for me, I think my introduction was longer than my speech. So please bear with me. Thank you very much for coming today. It's a very auspicious occasion. And we need to recognize what we need to do as a country, as a society, and as a world. Basically, we have taken women for granted for too long, and now is time to stand up for support. BSE, of course, had been pioneer in stock markets, but also has been a pioneer in getting women to lead the exchange also. So we have with us Ms. Dina Mehta, who is to be the first president of Bombay Stock Exchange in 2001. And she was, in some sense, the pioneer in that area. She joined BSE in 1984, first lady to come on the floor where you are sitting. This is a very historic hall. And so, ma'am, we are honored that you decided to come here today to ring the bell. And we are also honored that UN has decided to ring the bell across the world in all exchanges. BSE has been selected today for this honor. So, Rebecca, thank you very much. Mr. Jain also has decided to be here today morning to appreciate and acknowledge the role of women in Indian society and also amongst the world. So thank you very much all for coming and also to the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chauhan. It is with great pleasure now that I introduce Dr. Rebecca Tavares. Dr. Tavares is the representative of UN Women's Multi-Country Office for India, Bhutan, the Maldives, and Sri Lanka. Previously, Dr. Tavares was representative for Brazil and regional program director of UN Women's Brazil and Southern Cone Office from 2009 to 2013. A native of Southern California, Dr. Tavares graduated from Yale University and holds a doctorate from the Harvard Graduate School of Education. She has published several books and articles on race relations in Brazil, women's rights, and microfinance in Latin America. I now invite Dr. Tavares to address the gathering.
Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be with you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm especially happy to see that we have lots of young future managers with us today. I want to talk to both the men and the women in the room and share a little bit about the experience of UN Women. First, I'd like to congratulate the members of our group that are here today that have already signed on for He for She. He for She is UN Women's campaign to encourage men to stand together with women in solidarity for gender equality. Those of you who are already wearing your thank you, and we would like you to go online, www.heforshe.org, and sign up online because each country is keeping tabs on how many men and boys are signing up as He for She champions. And so far, India, we already have over 10,000 that are signed up formally online, and we have another 25,000 that we are still inputting into the system. So India stands ready to really take the leadership in the world for the He for She campaign, and you all can be part of that. I would like to especially thank Mr. Ashish Chauhan, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Bombay Stock Exchange, for his leadership and opening the day today with the Ring the Bell campaign with UN Women. As so many, I think there are 15 around the world that are ringing the bell, including Wall Street this morning. Mr. Arun Kumar Jain, the Managing Director of Floor Daniel India, who is one of our important allies, truly enlightened leader for men's leadership, especially in the corporate sector, on promoting women's empowerment and gender equality. And especially, I'm very proud and pleased to be with, on the same panel with Ms. Dina Metra, the member now of the advisory board of the Bombay Stock Exchange, but whose leadership over the years has been so crucial and so seminal in India, in particular in the finance and in the corporate sector. So please, thank you so much for being with us this morning. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Women's Day around the world as a struggle for justice and equality. It's a day to renew our commitments to the goals of equality, justice, inclusion, and empowerment. And we know that gender equality and furthering women's rights is at the core of economic growth and prosperity in the world today. Women's expansion of opportunities, choices, and control over resources and decisions that affect them will only increase the sustainability and the viability of economic growth in a country like India, which is standing and ready, poised to really become one of the largest economies, emerging economies in the world. The recent decade has seen many women in India rising to positions of power in business. And we've heard the loud call for balanced leadership in the corporate sector. Some of the businesses that are led by women have emerged as some of the best performing companies in India. And as we celebrate these achievements, it is hard, though, to overlook some of the worrying realities. Female labor force participation in India has dramatically decreased from above 40% in the early to mid-1990s to only 21% last year, and it's continuing to fall. We're trying to understand the reality of that, from a macroeconomic perspective, why is it that women are dropping out of the labor force? And we think it's very complex, and we think it's also related to women's increased participation in education, which is paradoxical because we think that as more women are educated, therefore there should be more women in the labor force, but it seems to be an inverse relationship. The lack of women's participation in the workforce across the Asia-Pacific region costs the region an estimated $89 billion every year. So we know that unleashing the talents of the female population in the economy will only serve to grow and ensure rapid and sustainable economic growth. We learned on Saturday that Germany joined the small but growing list of companies that have instigated quotas for women's participation on boards. Germany is one of the countries in Europe that found that, and again, Europe, Northern Europe especially, being seen as sort of the leader in promoting gender equality, the participation of women in boards was not changing. And so quotas were introduced there, a 30% quota for women's participation on boards, and we've seen in Norway where the quota is 40%, there are still issues and problems in implementing it. And just today, this morning, there's actually today's Mint is full of really great data about women in the labor force, including women coming back to the labor force, and it has good study of women on corporate boards in India, which is only 5%. And as you all know, the Companies Act has now mandated at least one woman on corporate boards, but you still see that the great majority of those women that are asked to be on boards are on multiple boards, so it's actually a very small number of women, and most of them also are members of the family or for other reasons coming onto the board other than their professional merits. So we have to really look at that, and I know that we will hear later on about some of the strategies for increasing women's participation in board leadership from our leaders, corporate leaders that are here today. I also would like to just say very briefly that we know research has proven, and there's actually very good, solid, strong research that shows that women's participation on boards does improve productivity, that women's boards that have more women, and that is at least 3 on the board, show less volatility over the long term. They make better strategic decisions, and part of the reason is because women make up 80% of the consumer base in the world. So women who are in positions of leadership can make better decisions about new products, developing products that will really appeal and reach new markets, and they also diversify how to reach out to those markets. So it's a very smart business decision to incorporate women at the highest levels of boards. We know that the major problem, and I'm sure you're all very much aware of it, is that pipeline of talented women to take leadership positions. And it does require leadership from the very, very top. We have examples with us this morning of top CEOs. There needs to be a commitment, a strong commitment and dedication on the part and persistence on the part of CEOs to be able to ensure that women stay in the pipeline for higher positions of decision making in the corporations. And oftentimes we'll hear probably this morning about how sometimes women's own self-doubts or their sense of obligations to their families and their other responsibilities in the home keep them from aspiring to those positions of authority and decision making. So it is the role of senior managers and of the CEO to set the tone from the very top and persist in bringing women into opportunities, to presenting them with opportunities, and also enabling through training and mentorship programs women to be able to qualify to have the opportunities in those top position-making authorities. Now, some of the guidelines for doing that, setting those types of policies and procedures internally are established in the UN Women's Empowerment Principles. You'll be hearing a little bit more about that today because Fleur Daniel will be signing its commitment to the Women's Empowerment Principles. This is a program of UN Women with the UN Global Compact in which the UN supports companies that want to establish policies and procedures to promote women to higher positions of decision making, as well as enabling women all the way through the rank and file, for example, to be able to return to the workforce after maternity leave, and especially for men to assume more of the work-life balance. UN Women strongly believes that women and men must share the responsibilities for all of the household obligations, and that includes liberating men to be able to go to the school play or to go to the football game of their sons and daughters, to take some responsibility for taking elders to the doctor or the hospital if necessary. In other words, there needs to be flex time built into corporate policies that enables men and women to share those family responsibilities. And UN Women is here to help implement those kinds of policies and share best practices. Since 2010, when the Women's Empowerment Principles Program was established, there are 800 CEOs around the world that have signed on and committed to gender equality and women's empowerment. Some of those companies here in India include HCL, Wipro, Infosys Technologies, Schneider Electric India, and Jindal Stainless, in addition to Floor Daniel, which will be joining this morning. We encourage all companies in India to adopt pro-women policies and practices and principles that place women's empowerment at the front and center of your priorities. There are fewer, more critical issues for the sustainability, the market positioning, and international competitiveness of the business sector, and the choices of the members who make up your leadership. You know that women are the best positioned to help identify new market opportunities, to reach new markets, and the world will never realize 100% of its goals for growth if 50% of its people cannot realize their full potential. When we unleash the power of women, we will secure a better future for all. Thank you again for being with us this morning, and I look forward to the comments of our colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tavares. It's truly an honor to have you here with us today. And I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge Ms. Sheetal Kapadia, Director of Fiban Capital, and Ms. Vandana Malhotra, DGM of SBI. Thank you both for making it today as well. We're really pleased that you could join us. I now have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Srimati Deena Mehta. She's Managing Director of Asetsi Mehta Investment Intermediates Limited and member of the Advisory Board of the Bombay Stock Exchange. Srimati Deena Mehta has been a stock market professional for the last 3 decades. By qualification, she is an MBA in Finance and an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Mrs. Mehta has been associated with several reforms in capital markets, including the setting up of BOLT system at BSE, setting up the Central Depository Service, and the streaming of Clearing Corporation, BOISL. She has been on the BSE board for 9 years and served as Vice President and President of the Exchange. She is the first woman to enter the BSE trading ring and also the first woman board member and President of the Exchange. She has served on several SEBI committees for the past 21 years since SEBI's inception and contributed to various reforms undertaken by SEBI. She's also a founder member of South Asian Federation of Exchanges, the Association of Stock Exchanges of SAARC countries. Srimati Deena Mehta has delivered over 1,000 lectures at investor meets in about 300 districts of India and at educational institutions including IIM Ahmedabad and the National Institute of Securities Markets. Mrs. Mehta has authored over 100 articles on various topics relating to capital markets that have been published in leading economic dailies as well as regional language papers. Several organizations have awarded her for her contribution to capital markets, including JC's International as Outstanding Young Person, IMC for her contribution to banking and finance, and Z Business for her contribution to capital markets. Currently, she is on the advisory board of BSE Limited and on the board of the National Payments Corporation. I now request Srimati Deena Mehta to address the gathering.
Mr. Ashish Chavan, CEO of BSE, Ms. Rebecca, UN representative, Mr. Jain, ladies and gentlemen. It is really a strong incentive to come so early in the morning, but I think no better than Women's Day to really show how much we care for our women. This is a story of me which is written in many papers, but I would like to recount as to how I came about into the stock exchange almost 30 years ago. I think it was in 1985 that I was working with Crompton Greaves, and my husband said, we have a membership of the exchange. Why do you want to work? You just go to the exchange. Of course, I was not aware that women were not there in the trading ring. And I was the first woman. Frankly, I was not aware about it. So I went for the interview. Normally, almost 100, 150 people come for interview. And I was virtually slated last. They said, you be the last person, though I was in number 10 or 15. And everybody was over in 30 seconds. But when my turn came, it lasted for 2 hours. And the then president, Mr. Ramdas Kaka, as he was known, he did every trick in the book to dissuade me from coming into the ring. He said, look, you don't come. I said, why, what is the problem? He said, look, it's not that I have any problem with you, but I do not know how the men will behave once you are in trading ring, because there are no other women in trading ring. So I said, no, you don't worry about me. I'll take care of myself. You please allow me to go. His last argument was that there are no ladies' toilet in the trading ring. We used to be in the old trading ring, the old building which was there. I said, you don't worry about it. At that time, the markets used to be for just 2 hours, which was from 12 to 2. And I said, you don't worry, I'll take care of myself. And of course, with great reluctance, he had to permit. And it was then that I came to know that there were no women in the trading ring. Of course, hats off to all the men who are participants in the market. I have had no problems whatsoever. I was highly respected and I would say taken care of when I entered the trading ring till it lasted in 1995. I don't think I have missed a single day of trading. Between 1985 to 1995, we used to work for about 180 to 200 days and we used to have a vacation in December. So I think I would have 100% attendance record in that entire period which was there. And of course, being a chartered accountant and a person very much process oriented, I started looking at the various processes of the exchange. And then I started questioning. I said, look, if you take 15 days to trade, why should you take 21 days to settle? The settlement cycle used to last from something like 15 to 21 days after the close of the settlement. So then, we started reforming the process. And then I wanted to be a partner in my husband's firm. Then we looked at the law. And, it's such a curious thing. As late as 1985, the law stated that you could be a partner with your son, with your nephew, with your grandson, with your grandfather, with your uncle, but you could not be a partner with a wife, with a daughter, or a mother-in-law, or a grandmother, or mother. So entire female line was completely not there in the law at that point of time. And Mr. Maya, our ex-ED, who was a very progressive person, he said, we cannot allow this to happen. And that's how, that time the stock exchange used to be governed by the Ministry of Finance. So we wrote and wrote and wrote to the Delhi ministry, and it took us 3 to 4 years. I think if you open the bylaws book, you will see that clause is inserted, I think in 87 or 88. So it took us that long to, get the clause inserted. But I am happy that post that we had Usha Sundaram, who became a member in her own right. Of course, there was no bar on women becoming members. There was a bar on women becoming partners. So she became, unfortunately, she is no more. She just recently died in a car accident. So this is, and when the ring got closed in 94, 95, there were at least 50 women who were there in the trading ring at that point of time. So I am happy that I was a kind of a trendsetter and not just a trailblazer who just did something and vanished. But there were a lot of women who have got inspired and come to the trading ring. I think what is more important is the doability aspect. Once people realize that somebody has done it, so it is doable. And once that doability comes in people's mind, all the barriers go away. And according to me, the profession of stockbroking, distribution, sub-brokership, this is an ideal profession for women. And of course, I often say that, Lakshmi and Saraswati were both women. So, like learning how to make money and being a money maker both things are ideally suited for women. And that is something, because it is a profession which does not make you in a very time bound kind of a working cycle. You can at your own pace, you can go, you can service your customers, and it will be real help not only for your customers, for your family also. Because lot of men are good at earning money, but when it comes to managing of money, the money is just lying in the bank FDs, and they keep on getting accumulated over there. And then it may be renewed, it may not be renewed. Many times I have seen that the people are not even aware of the custody of their assets. If you ask somebody how much money you have in FD, they will say, I have 10 lakhs. But ask for a physical copy of a proper FD, either it is not collected from the bank. If it is collected, it got renewed, but the one which was replaced was not done. The share certificates are really in many times in a mess. They are not properly accounted for, nor are they dematted. Demat account statements are not regularly filed. Your nominations in bank account, policy, flats, all these things are not in order. So if we look at the custody of the financial assets, I think we are very poor at keeping custody of our assets, and at the same time earning the returns on these custody assets. Has the interest come on time? Has the dividend of the shares that I have been credited in my account? Or if any debenture has matured, did I get the money? LIC policy has matured, did I get the money? All these small things are, they make big holes when it comes to your investment accruals. So I feel that as women have a very big role to play so far as finance is concerned. Of course, Rebecca did speak about women on boards of, today only there was a list of women who are on the boards, and of the 10 in the list, I think 2 were family members who are there. Of course, banking sector has been more I would say forward-looking, where we have so many women, thanks to ICICI Bank. And we have got so many women who are there in the forefront and who are there in the limelight, and they have given a lot of women all around. Of course, now we have State Bank of India, also Madam Arundhati, who has come. But then these are people you can count on your fingertips. And why does this happen? Of course, the biggest problem is, social. Like, I was asked that why are there not more women brokers? Because the accretion of wealth happens in the name of the male child only. If you have a girl, you buy gold for her, you keep cash or FD for her marriage. But when it comes to, buying a flat, you buy it in name of the son. When it comes to buying land, you buy for the son. When it comes to having shares, you buy it in name of the son. So all the wealth accretion happens in the name of male child only. And therefore, if women wants to get into stock broking, the net worth requirement, other things, of course, now BSE has got a very low net worth requirement, so most women can become. But otherwise, it's very difficult for wealth accretion to happen in the name of the women, and then, that push or a takeoff kind of a push which is required is not there. So, the social parameters are such. And society, as men, we really need to help. And I think more than men, the women need to help the women. Because as a mother, as a aunt, as a mausi, chachi, or fufi, or whoever you are you encouraging, your girls to go out and work? Are you yourself going out and work? Because the chances of, if the women members in a family are working members, then for the next generation girls, it is very easy to go out and work. So, that kind of support system needs to be developed in our society, where women themselves, first I think women must help other women, and then, the men will help the women. So it is necessary that as a society we recognize, and I heard Rebecca say that $89 billion are getting lost in women not participating in the workforce, which is really a lot of money. And I think if we really provide, because, so many girls are raring to go. If you see the admissions which are there in management colleges, engineering colleges, chartered accountants, more and more women are, I think in CA now, women have overtaken the men. Okay, there are more women chartered accountants than male chartered accountants. But then in the workforce, when it comes to, first child, what kind of support is required from the family. If all these kind of supports are provided, I'm sure that we would really be having a culture and a country where men and women are treated equally, and the respect for women once they become money earning. I think the entire perception of the society will change, and lot of problems that we have in society in relation to treatment of women would drastically change, A, with education, and B, with women going out and working. I think with these words, I would like to close. I am really thankful to UN because, programs like this, if we continuously go on highlighting the issues before us, then people talk about it and our thinking changes. So such programs are absolutely necessary, and I think no better place than the stock exchange that we should have this program. And I hope at least all the women who are sitting over here, they would play an active role in their family finances, as well as, since you are already working here, maybe you are part of the financial market, but please play an active role in your family finances. And I'm sure that would really, multiply the wealth and benefit from attending today's program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would now like to introduce Mr. Arun Kumar Jain, Managing Director, Floor Daniel India Private Limited. Mr. Jain currently serves as the Managing Director of Floor Corporation's India entity. Mr. Jain was previously serving the power equipment manufacturer BHEL. Mr. Jain is a member of the National Executive Board of the American Chambers of Commerce in India and chairman of its Infrastructure Committee. He is a member of the of Indian Industries National Committee on Integrity and Transparency in Governance, and has also been actively associated with the World Economic Forum Partnering Against Corruption initiative in India. Mr. Jain passionately endorses gender diversity and is a member of Catalyst's India Advisory Board. Recently, he has accepted the International Management Institute of Delhi's request to be on its board for the Center of Leadership and Diversity. Mr. Jain is an active philanthropist and has been inducted as a patron into the governing body of Khushbu Welfare Society, an NGO working for the mentally differently abled. He also works closely with the NGO Saksham for its School for Underprivileged Children. I now request Mr. Arun Kumar Jain to address the gathering.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is indeed a privilege to have the opportunity to share with you a few thoughts of mine. But I'll just start with a short introduction of the company that I represent, which is Fluor in India. We have indeed taken root, and we have now been around for 20 years and currently employ 3,000 fine women and men in our offices in Gurgaon. We've rendered engineering, procurement, and construction management services to clients in India, including Jamnagar for the Reliance refinery and overseas in the oil and gas, mining, manufacturing, steel, and metals industries, and have executed about 200 projects so far. So you'll have to pardon me, most of what I will say might have a project background. And what we see is that the increasing complexity and pace of project execution, places a premium on improvisation, innovation, quiet efficiency, and cost-effective solutions. And while we see how to do it, there is several research, and one of them, for example, the London Business School, it actually unequivocally states that when you have equal gender representation in teams, you can help increase and unlock the innovative and efficiency potential of teams. And also you would have seen a lot of empirical studies which reiterate that companies with more women in decision-making positions tend to perform financially better. So for us, it makes business sense to be wanting to have gender equality. And we work at the start from the beginning. So we're trying to first create an environment which is barrier-free, open, transparent, promotes inquiry, is inclusive. And all this, we believe, then will promote the performance and enhance the potential for all, primarily, and including women. So as an important element of this, we have initiated a program called GROW. GROW stands for Growing Representation and Opportunity for Women. Now, we've been now working in it for 5 years. The results, I think, are good. At this point of time, we have 500 women in our ranks. So out of the 3,000 people, which is about 17%, there's still a lot more to go. But in these 4 years, we have doubled the number of women in engineering. So today, for example, in engineering, we have more than 350 women. We barely had 4% of women in engineering 4 years ago. And my own personal experience just leads me to strongly believe that given opportunities, both women and men will strive to excel. And I've seen at home, for example, my mother, she had a great desire to study. So she graduated, obtained a master's, and then acquired a doctorate in literature. All the while she bore, nurtured, and managed the demands of a growing family, 3 children. And she all them had. And even now, after marriage, I see my wife, which is, again, as a company, much like a successful project manager, deftly managing and navigating the myriad everyday activities of life with little vested authority. And that's the key part, that women can always have the knack to get things done, even though they may not have the authority, which is very important when you execute projects. So gender equality at the workplace for us obviously will start with recruitment. And we have a whole bunch of things which we are doing. For example, paying a premium to our recruiters to get women. So for entry level, we pay 25% more. For senior women, we pay double the amount of money to our recruiters if they get us women to come in our workforce. We have networked with women's engineering colleges. We take female role models when we go to hire. The net result of all this, today in our new grads hired, for the last 3 years, last year we had 58% of our new grad hires were women. This year, 50%. And this is 50% out of 300 new grads that we hired, not small numbers. The year before, we had 38%. So large numbers. New grads, yes, you can push hard. The real issue comes when you go to the higher levels. So what are we doing there for mature women? So, what we are finding is women will rarely leave their families to move cities to come to work with us. So we're now trying to implement what you can call as a buy one, get one free principle. So we are encouraging the spouses also to come and join us. So, and you'd be glad to know, today we have 25 spouses, 25 couples working for us. And not only that, sometimes to encourage, senior families to shift, we are saying, okay, if you have children and they're new grads, we'll take in the new grads. And today we have 18 second-generation employees in our organization. And obviously, we have the other benefits, collateral benefits of more loyalty if we have the couple and the children working for us. We are also, for example, for getting more senior women, we are trying to get women who are off-ramp or who have not taken a break from their careers to come to us. So that program, interestingly, we call it Revive. Not too much of success, but we have 4 women already who either had never worked or had taken long breaks, and they are now working with us again at various levels. And also to help, we have introduced something like job sharing of sorts, Rebecca, which is like you have a husband and a wife. So we have at least 4 examples where the wife comes during the morning, the husband comes during the afternoon, and they take care of the child. And we told the projects, okay, these people are available for you 4 hours a day. So just plan for that. It seems to be working. So that's another way we are helping. And I was just speaking to Rebecca in the morning. So having gotten women into the world, how do we fast track them? One of the things which we do is to give them positions of visibility. So for every public event that we have in my organization, without exception, we will have a female and a male co-championing that. In one event, it'll be a male co-champion, in another event, it'll be a female champion and a male co-champion. What it does is it dramatically increases the visibility of the women that we have. And also, for example, things like business travel, assignments, we are pushing hard so that we get more, and I was relating stories to Rebecca in the morning. I mean, for 18 years, we ran the stats. We had 3% of all our travelers being women. Now we push for it, and in the last 9 months, I've now been able to achieve a third of the women travelers, as women. Imagine how much it does to their confidence building, self-esteem, and capacity building when women go and represent their organizations in front of clients. So that's another measure that we are taking. And apart from that, in office also, we're trying to have more family-friendly policies, if you might call them. I believe we are the only organization in all of India, at least in the EPC industry, maybe all of India, which has a 9-day fortnight. So we have an alternate Friday off. And that's one of the biggest attractions for when I go out and talk to women that they have. And even the Work Friday has abbreviated work hours. We have flexible work schedule, which a lot of others have. We've also started, which is again not very common for engineering companies or EPC companies, work from home on occasion. And by the way, you started maybe for women, but it helps everyone. It helps men too. So somebody broke a foot, and he worked for 8 months from home, for 8 weeks from home until he could come back because he could do that work. Of course, subsidized childcare activities. And also we help, if there are couples, for them to move together if we can, so that, there's more mobility for women. In fact, we've had situations where we wanted to get positions for women, and then we made sure that the husband also got a stay. So that both the woman did not miss that assignment opportunity because the husband didn't have one. And also we send women to sites, and I was giving an example to Rebecca again in the morning. We had a field requirement in Kuwait. So we've worked now, out of the 18 people we have nominated, 9 men, 9 women. It took 4 rounds of discussions to convince the women that yes, it's safe to go to Kuwait, that going to a construction site is good for a career. But finally we did, we continued. And this we do it together with not just gender diversity, we also believe geographic, linguistic, and other forms of diversity. Essentially, diverse people have diverse strengths, and you don't want stereotypes. So that's what we try to do. And I'll end with something which I have observed. Interestingly, I find that some of my sharpest supervisors, they are going out of the way to have women in their teams. I was surprised, and then I talked to some of them. He said, and more married women. And I said, why? He says, their belief is that having kids to go back to, most women are most likely to finish their tasks with quiet efficiency instead of what the males are likely to do, trying to prove that famous adage of work expands to fill the time available. So they believe their efficiency actually increases if they have women. And I would just like to conclude with something which has been in the public domain for now. I think it's attributed to Sheryl Sandberg, maybe. It says, there are differences between women and men, but leadership ability is not one of them. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. I now call upon Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan, MD and CEO of the BSE, to present mementos to our guests to mark this special occasion celebrating the prospect of a more gender-equal world. I request Mr. Chauhan to please present the first memento to Dr. Rebecca Tavares, Country Representative, UN Women Multi-Country Office for India, Bhutan, Maldives, and Sri Lanka. I also request Mr. Chauhan to present a memento to Mrs. Deena Mehta, MD, Asit C. Mehta Investment Intermediates Limited. And to Mr. Arun Kumar Jain, Managing Director, Fleur Daniel India Private Limited. I also request Mr. Chauhan to present mementos to Ms. Sheetal Kapadia, Director, Fibon Capital. as well as to Ms. Vandana Malhotra, DGM, SBI. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Women's Empowerment Principles signing ceremony with Floor Daniel India Private Limited. Mr. Arun Kumar Jain will be signing to demonstrate their commitment to adopting the Women's Empowerment Principles. Thank you all for joining us today at this special opening bell ceremony commemorating Women's Day. We are delighted to have formally acknowledged a shared commitment toward ensuring more women participate in the corporate sector and to achieving a gender-equal environment in business and in society globally. We appeal to all the men in the audience to also join the UN Women He for She campaign, as Dr. Tavares also mentioned. Men can pledge their commitment to ending gender-based discrimination in their environments by signing up online at heforshe.org. Do join us now for breakfast, and we hope that you all have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you. Thank you.